Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Alec Baldwin to be charged with involuntary manslaughter in Rust shooting. This dangerous man will be taken off the streets and justice will be administered. Okay, actually, I don't know about justice, but it is fascinating to see he is being charged. I assumed there would be some charge based on the merits, although it's hard to know based on the politics if they'd actually go after him. And this does sound like it might actually be politics. Like, they can't let Alec Baldwin just walk, having literally killed a woman, but they're not going to charge him with the murder that he should be charged with. Involuntary manslaughter. Basically, look, it was his responsibility. There was some negligence involved. Somebody died because of it. I question that. If you know the full story, it actually sounds a bit like perhaps Alec Baldwin was having a major dispute with the staff. He particularly had an issue with this woman, and then he pointed a gun at her and he shot and killed her. He tried claiming they were friends. He tried saying they weren't friends. The story doesn't add up. But it could be that the prosecutors don't think they can actually get a conviction on murder, so they're going for the charge they think they will actually get him on, and that's involuntary manslaughter. They're also going after the armorer. And I got some questions about this. Let's break this down. Let's talk about this because there's a lot to go through here as to whether or not these charges are right. I'm not so convinced the armorer should be charged. I think Alec Baldwin should be charged, but it's complicated because who is ultimately responsible on the set? And there were a lot of broken rules, so maybe it should be everybody. Smash that like button, become a member at timcast.com, support our work. Let's share this video. Let's read the story. Vanity Fair reports Alec Baldwin will be charged with involuntary manslaughter in Rust shooting. The movie's prop armorer faces the same charges. The assistant director, responsible for on-set safety, pleads guilty to negligent use of a deadly weapon. Now, apparently, they're giving him options. The jury, there's going to be two different charges they can choose between. But let's read the breaking news here. Also, I want to point out something weird. Almost every single outlet tweeted out Alec Baldwin charged with involuntary manslaughter, and then you click the headline and it says to be charged. Yeah, there's a big difference between will be charged and is charged, and maybe they've got the details wrong, but here we go. Vanity Fair reports Alec Baldwin and prop armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed will both be charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter in the shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the set of the Western drama Rust. After a more than year-long investigation into the October 21 incident, so it's been like over a year. Santa Fe County District Attorney Mary Carmack Altwise announced the charges Thursday. The 42-year-old Hutchins died after a gun Baldwin was holding for a rehearsal fired a live round of ammunition into her chest, passing through her and striking writing director Joel Souza in the shoulder. The movie's assistant director, Dave Halls, who was cited in sheriff's reports as the person who handed the weapon to Baldwin and announced to the crew it was a cold gun, signed a plea bargain with the DA for the charge of negligent use of a deadly weapon, accepting a suspended sentence and 6 months of probation. Slap on the wrist, my friends. Slap on the wrist. I don't know who's ultimately responsible, but I want to say I can't definitively tell you who put the bullet in the gun. My personal opinion is that the responsibility starts and ends with Alec Baldwin. If you hold a real gun, that's your fault. End of story. I don't care. I understand maybe there's charges for other people for handing them the gun, whatever. If someone hands you a gun and says, don't worry, it's not loaded, and then you aim it and shoot somebody, your fault. This is what I don't understand. Whether a gun is loaded or not doesn't matter. Let's say someone hands you a sword and they say, here's a sword. It's not loaded. And then you whack them with it and they die. You were handed a weapon. You used the weapon and you killed someone. It's this weird thing where they're like, well, because a gun could or couldn't have bullets, therefore it wasn't a weapon. No, it's a weapon. Anybody hands you a weapon you then use for any reason, your fault. Now, that being said, I understand there's a difference. Let's say someone hands you a weapon on set. It's a sword. And they say, we're now going to do a sword fight. And you have a choreographer and an accident happens and someone gets injured. That's actually a different story. Or someone dies. It just depends on the circumstances. I don't think they should be using real swords. but they wanted to use a real gun. So I'd actually ask you that question. Comment below. What do you think? If someone handed a katana on a movie set, say, here's a katana, it's an actual blade sharpened to the finest point, could slice through a man clean. Now swing it at that guy. And you go, well, whatever you say, boss. I gotta wonder, who's responsible. Because if we're talking about a sword and you don't think someone's going to get hurt, but you are wielding that weapon, I still think it's your responsibility. You've taken the choice to swing a weapon at someone. Alec Baldwin took the choice to take a gun, a real gun, point it at someone, pull the hammer, pull the trigger. Not to mention he was fighting with this woman, so don't give me that. The DA appointed Special Prosecutor Andrea Reeb to oversee the case. Quote, if any one of these three people, Alec Baldwin, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, or David Halls, had done their job, Halyna Hutchins would be alive today. It's that simple. Here's my problem with this. I think it is more probable that Alec Baldwin placed the bullet in the gun. Therefore, imagine you're Halyna Hutchins. This is the route they're going. And maybe I'm just wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. A lot of people are saying I'm exaggerating or I'm being too harsh on Alec Baldwin. No, let me tell you the details. Imagine you're an armorer on set. You take a gun, you check it. You take the blanks, you put them in, you check it. You take them out, you check them again, you put them back in. You're like, okay, here's your gun. Then homeboy pops it open and slides in a live round and then aims it thinking, now's my chance. This guy can blame the armorer and say, they gave me the gun. Now, why did the gun go from the armorer to the assistant director to Baldwin? You see, these are the questions I have. And that's why I don't know if this actually makes sense. Because I'll tell you, reasonable doubt. The gun passed through three hands. The only person with a motive was Alec Baldwin. So why are you charging the other people? Maybe the assistant director had a motive. I don't see why the armorer would have a motive. I don't see why we would assume the one person who is the expert on set is the person who screwed up. But anyway, the evidence clearly shows a pattern of criminal disregard for safety on the Rust film set. And at fair point, they were apparently taking the gun, loading it with live ammo and shooting it like out back or whatever. Yeah, you shouldn't use real guns, man. But they like it. They like to use it and they like to actually load it so it looks good on camera, but they're not supposed to put live rounds in it. They say in New Mexico, there is no room for film sets that don't take our state's commitment to gun safety and public safety seriously. No charges will be filed for the wounding of Souza. District Attorney spokesperson Heather Brewer explained that there is no statute in New Mexico for unintentional battery unless the shooting leads to death. Interesting. Vanity Fair reached out to the lawyers for both Baldwin and Gutierrez for comment. Baldwin has previously said he trusted that the crew members responsible for the props would not hand him a weapon loaded with a live round of ammunition. And Gutierrez-Reed's attorney has said she was working under distracting and stressful conditions while preparing the gun. That's kind of crazy to me, because if I was Gutierrez's legal team, I would be like, just tell him you did your job right. The gun passed through multiple hands. Okay, you want reasonable doubt? Here's your legal defense. I checked. No live rounds. I did my job. I don't know what else I could do. I checked, no live rounds, passed the gun off to the guys doing the shoot, as I'm instructed to do. Anyway, let's read. In addition to the bullet that killed Hutchins, investigators found 5 additional live rounds of ammunition mingled among the movie's props and costumes. Whoa. 2 loose .45 caliber bullets were discovered on top of a prop cart. A third was in a bandolier worn by actor Jensen Ackles. A fourth was in a gun belt worn by Baldwin. And a fifth was found in a box of dummy ammunition with Gutierrez-Reed's fingerprints on it. Okay. They say dummy rounds are fake bullets that look real, but are completely inert and have no gunpowder. But I think dummy rounds, they have bullets, but they have no powder, but they have primer. So I think what happened with Brandon Lee in The Crow was that they put one of those in. When they fired it, the cap pushed the bullet into the barrel, but didn't fire it. Then when they put the blank in and fired it, it shoved the slug into his face. Crazy story, man. Can I just read that? Probably the most important revelation. A live round was found in Alec Baldwin's gun belt. Come on, man. Finding it in a box of dummy ammunition that Gutierrez-Reed had her fingerprints on. Come on. What does that mean? Who else had their fingerprints on it? Doesn't mean she did it. But you mean to tell me that somehow a live bullet got in a real gun, a guy pulled the hammer back, pointed it at the woman, pulled the trigger, killing her, and he had live bullets in his belt? Come on, man. This was my theory. Let's go back in time. The story was that Alec Baldwin was angry with this woman. They were having problems on set. The crew were complaining about conditions and wages. Alec Baldwin had a meeting with this woman. And they make it seem like, oh, they were friends. They went to dinner together. And I'm like, did they? Or did Alec Baldwin have negotiations over dinner with this woman over the problems on set? Did Alec Baldwin, who we know is a hothead, who got in trouble for shoving a guy, they claimed he punched him, but he shoved a guy in the street over a parking space, who's got that angry phone call with his daughter, a hothead, shoots and kills a woman. He's got motive, he's got opportunity, and he had live bullets in his gun belt? And you're charging him with involuntary manslaughter? Get out of here, dude. You know, that is a fact unknown to me and you when we covered this story. Homeboy had a bullet in his gun belt. Come on. Okay, look. It's entirely possible he did not intend to kill this woman. It's entirely possible that he was actually just rehearsing and doing the shot. Someone accidentally put the bullet in there. If they found live bullets on top of a prop, in a box, in his belt, it may just be that somebody brought live rounds. They were doing target practice for fun. Someone then saw the bullets and mixed them all up. That's possible. That's possible. So what do you think? Do you think that's all it was? I'm not so convinced. I'm really not. Because possible, but then you have to just say that the fighting on set, the arguments Alec Baldwin had, his temper, the fact that he had the bullet on his gun belt, all a coincidence, all immaterial. So I'll put it this way. Imagine you got a bunch of grains of sand making a heap. At what point, as the saying goes, I bring it up all the time, at what point does a pile of sand become a heap? You drop a grain of sand on the table, you don't got a heap, you got a grain of sand. You drop a grain of sand, no, you just got 2 grains. At what point do you have a heap of sand? How do you determine that? I look at this and I'd be like, in order for this to be true, that Alec Baldwin accidentally shot her, you would have to go into that heap of sand and start dividing things out and being like, just ignore those things. Okay, ignore those, and then there's your accident. How do you disregard these other facts? Motive, opportunity, and the possession of live bullets. Come on, okay? Imagine, Alec Baldwin literally shot a woman and had live bullets on him. And we're wondering how the bullet got in the gun. He had them. It's just crazy to me that people are crawling over themselves to entertain the possibility of some grand circuitous mistake like Final Destination. Just think about this for 2 seconds. Alec Baldwin, there's an armorer's got a gun, and she's like, look, checking the fake bullets, and she's like, all right, these are all good. Loads them up, and then someone yells over, oh, hey, Hannah, lunch is here. She puts the gun down, and she holds it down, and she goes, oh, is my roast beef? And as she's talking, a live bullet, a gust of wind knocks it off a shelf. It bounces, ba-ding, ba-ding, and then goes, falls right into the cylinder. And then she's like, and she looks down, and she goes, oh, we're all good. And then walks over and hands it to a guy. And then he pops it open and he's checking it. And then right as he's about to get to the live bullet to check it, someone goes, yo, sandwiches are here. And he's like, oh, yeah, give me a second. Then he looks down and wind blows and it spins. And he's like, it looks fine to me. Like all of these weird mistakes must have just happened for Alec Baldwin to have shot someone he was mad at while carrying live bullets and holding a gun that he pointed at the person and shot. Come on, dude. 2 competing charges, Baldwin and Gutierrez-Reed, will each face 2 charges of involuntary manslaughter because the jury will be asked to choose between the 2 counts. According to the DA, the first charge can be referred to simply as involuntary manslaughter. For this charge to be proved, there must be underlying negligence. Under New Mexico law, involuntary manslaughter is a 4th-degree felony and is punishable by up to 18 months in jail and a $5,000 fine. This charge also includes the misdemeanor charge of negligent use of a firearm, which would merge as a matter of law. The other charge is involuntary manslaughter in the commission of a lawful act. This charge requires proof that there was more than simple negligence involved in a death. This is also a fourth-degree felony punishable by up to 18 months in jail and up to a $5,000 fine. This charge includes a firearm enhancement or added mandatory penalty because a firearm was involved. The firearm enhancement makes the crime punishable by a mandatory 5 years in jail. 5 years. He ain't going to get it. I'd be surprised. I got to be honest with you guys. If I was on the jury, I'd probably say not guilty based on everything I've seen. While I'm the one who's outright just being like, yo, listen up. This guy probably wanted to do this. I'm not willing to send Alec Baldwin to prison on what I think is probable. That's how my principles function. Do I think Baldwin did it? If I went to Vegas and they had a board and it said, did Baldwin intend to do it? Did he not intend to do it? I'd put my money on he intended to do it. But that's just a bet on cash. If you came to me and said the bet comes with putting the man in prison for 5 years or letting him go, I'd be like, nah. I'm not willing. Like, I'll put it this way. If it's 49 to 51, I'm looking to make some money on a dice roll or something, I'll go for it. If it's a 1% chance that Alec Baldwin goes to prison for 5 years, I ain't taking that bet. I'm not about to put somebody in jail unless I watched him do it and he confesses. As much as I don't trust the guy and I'd never want to be around him with a gun or get on his bad side for that matter, I'm not willing to put people in prison without knowing definitively and for sure. That being said, I am of the opinion that it is insane they did not charge him with murder because the dude had motive and opportunity. What was his motive? He was fighting with the crew. What was his opportunity? They found live bullets in his gun belt. He had the gun in his hand. Somehow a bullet got in it, and then he shot this woman. And he lied about it. I didn't pull the trigger. It's a single-action revolver. You have to pull the hammer back and then pull the trigger. Like he didn't actually hold it. It just went off like, oh. He had to pull the hammer back and then release the trigger. I don't trust this guy. 5 years, though. He could get 5 years in prison. There's a very clear process for pursuing justice in this case. Carmack Altwise said in a statement, "We are committed to upholding the integrity of that process to ensure equal justice under the law. Charges will be formally filed with New Mexico's First Judicial District Court before the end of the month, according to Carmack Altwise. The defendants will be sent a summons and required to make a first appearance, a procedure that is often referred to in other jurisdictions as an arraignment. From there, a preliminary hearing will be held, most likely in the next 2 months, in which the prosecution presents the case to a judge who will then rule on whether a trial should move forward. Last April, New Mexico's Workplace Safety Division fined the producers the maximum fine for unsafe handling of firearms. In October, Baldwin announced that he and other producers of Rust had reached a settlement agreement with the Hutchins family, with their husband, Matt, joining the unfinished project as an executive producer. The Hutchins family lawyer recently declined to comment on the state of the settlement, although Baldwin has said he hoped to resume filming as soon as this month. That has not yet happened. I don't like sending people to prison at all. I don't think the system's going to work. I don't trust Alec Baldwin. I think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's an evil guy. I think he's a bad guy. I think Adam Schiff is evil. I think Alec Baldwin's just bad, And I'll explain. Adam Schiff does what I view to be what is evil versus what is bad. Bad for Alec Baldwin is he's a hothead. He yells at people. He shoved a guy. These are bad things. But is he evil? He's just bad. He's like a nasty dude. He gets angry and loses his cool. Evil, in my opinion, requires more than, requires a high degree of intent. So like Adam Schiff releasing private citizens' phone records and other members of Congress' phone records, lying to the American public for political power is intentional acts to gain power. Evil. Alec Baldwin, I think, got mad at a lady and then just lost it. I think it was a passion. I think it's more likely to have been a passion murder. And passion murder, in my opinion, is bad, but not evil. Premeditated murder is evil. Passion murder, not so much. But he's close, because this very well may have been premeditated, meaning he put the bullets in his belt, he got ready, he went for it. So I think he may be close, but I don't know. Look, I thought Alec Baldwin was wonderful in 30 Rock. Jack Donaghy's an amazing character. It was amazingly well done. I think Alec Baldwin is a great actor. I think he's done a lot of great work. I love Beetlejuice. Hey, how about that? But this dude's got a history of temper. This dude clearly had a dispute with the staff, with the crew working on the movie. This guy was standing in front of her, pulled out a gun that somehow got a live bullet in it. He pulled the hammer back. He pulled the trigger. He shot through her. He shot her in the heart, like a direct shot. And then they found a live bullet in his gun belt. And they're like, must have been an accident. Must have just been negligence. Yo, that is insane to me. I think you pursue that investigation. You let a jury decide. To be fair, maybe it's just they didn't think they would get to conviction. Alec Baldwin's a high-profile dude. Fine. But I don't know. Do you agree or disagree? Because I got to say, now that we're learning he had the bullet in his belt, come on. For real? But hey, man, who knows? Maybe he was framed. Someone's trying to take him down. Many people were commenting like, you don't know how movie sets work, Tim. You're wrong. I know how guns work. And I don't care where you are and for whatever reason. You got a gun, your responsibility, period. Now, Alec Baldwin made an interesting point. He said, if I were to open that gun up and check around, they'd take it from me. And they'd be like, no, because we're responsible. It's a fair point. I mean, think about it. Alec Baldwin's not the expert. If he opened the gun to check the bullets, then closed it, they'd be like, what did you just do? Now we got to check it again to make sure you didn't put a live bullet in it. It is a fair point. It is. But I don't trust the guy. Sorry, man. I just don't. I suppose we'll see if he makes it through this one. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.